Hello friends, today I would like to introduce the movie, still a Michael J. Fox movie, 2023, director Davis Guggenheim. Experience the journey of beloved actor, Michael J. Fox, as we dive into the ups and downs of his personal and professional life. See what happens when an optimistic person faces an incurable disease. Get ready for a touching cinematic adventure. Michael J. Fox has been an idol for years, whether we saw him in the 80s or see him only attending Back to the Future meet and greets. As you know, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 1991, which he hadn't made public until 1998. The made-for-Apple TV Plus doc, Still, the Michael J. Fox movie is about how he became a star, how he became ill, and how he retired from acting. At times it can be truthful, at other times it can be heartbreaking, and in other cases, it can be nostalgic. We see how he filmed Family Ties and Back to the Future close together. We see how he married his Family Ties co-star Tracy Pollan. We see how he was diagnosed with the disease. We see how he used pills to hide the pain during his hit 90s show Spin City. And we see how he tried to keep walking. He does tend to limp, but he has some help from his family and friends to keep him going. As a kid, I knew Michael J. Fox through his voiceover work in Homeward Bound 2, Lost in San Francisco, Stuart Little 1 and 2, and Atlantis, The Lost Empire. His voice couldn't be more memorable to me. As a young adult, I saw him in Back to the Future and realized he was a real charmer. I still think he's a charmer even today because a disease should not take away who he is as a person. Dramatizations use clips from his previous movies and shows to represent the highs and lows of his life. We see how he struggles to get major roles as a young man and a short man, standing at 5 feet 4 inches and a quarter, how Siskel and Ebert give him positive and negative reviews, and how he deals with one situation after the next. For example, the clip where these late great critics praise his movie Back to the Future should be proof that not every critic is as mean-spirited as movies and shows make them out to be. But it's also heartbreaking when we see that because of his condition, they pan some of his later movies. The movie may not be long enough to fully examine his life, it runs for 94 minutes, but it does remind us of who he was and who he is now, and it tells us things we never really guessed about him. It's a biography and documentary that brings on the tears, humor, and nostalgia. Still, a Michael J. Fox movie is a remarkable accomplishment, making brilliant use of film clips to seamlessly illustrate and augment reenactments and the actor's narration of his story, having spent more than 30 years living with Parkinson's disease. Nostalgic without becoming overly sentimental, it's an ode to Fox's life, career, and the struggle he continues to endure. In some respects, the documentary dovetails with Val, another biography about an actor grappling with health issues, although that drew heavily on Val Kilmer's penchant for toting a video camera around with him to chronicle his life. Here, director Davis Guggenheim, An Inconvenient Truth, provides an equally intimate but more cinematic effect by combining Fox's direct-to-camera interviews and narration culled from his book with understated reenactments and clips that cleverly capture key moments. When Fox discusses his insane schedule as he shuttled between his hit sitcom Family Ties and shooting Back to the Future, for example, there's a clip of someone asking his character, "Do you think you can handle both jobs?" Fox refers to his first brush with tremors as a message from the future, before flashing back to his early life. Growing up far from the spotlight, he took the plunge and headed to Hollywood, to the strains of the Kenny Loggins song This Is It, to pursue acting, capitalizing on his diminutive size and a youthful appearance that allowed him to still play kids when in high school. The breakthrough role on Family Ties came despite resistance from NBC's then-president, the legendary Brandon Tartikoff, who is shown saying of Fox, "I don't think we're talking about somebody who's going to be on a lunchbox." Tartikoff later shows off an autographed lunchbox, embossed with Fox's picture, that the actor sent him once the show became a smash hit. Having become an advocate for Parkinson's research and funding, Fox matter-of-factly discusses his limitations, the unlikelihood of him living another 20 years, and perhaps most poignantly, his lonely efforts to hide his condition, up to his time on the sitcom Spin City. Guggenheim deftly peppers the documentary with everything from behind-the-scenes glimpses of Family Ties to reviews of Fox's movies, pro and con, by Siskel and Ebert, to a montage of sequences in which he's running, tying in with his observation, "I couldn't be still until I could literally no longer keep still." As Fox freely admits, the diagnosis initially shook him, leading to alcohol and other coping mechanisms. Yet he discusses it in the interviews with humor and nary a trace of self-pity, as the camera zeroes in on the challenges posed by even the smallest chores. "My world is getting smaller," Fox says, by way of his decision to participate in this documentary now, though thanks to his wife and children, there's no shortage of love or warmth to be found. And in terms of serving as a source of inspiration in terms of dealing with the bad hand that he was dealt, this Michael J. Fox movie makes him look 10 feet tall. Some of the audience's reviews are as follows: "Still was warmly and enthusiastically received at the South by Southwest Film Festival. An overflow crowd gave the film and its subject a standing ovation. Unlike your usual Hollywood biopic, Still is an inspiring story of young, and perhaps somewhat superficial, movie star journey from celebrity to hero. The creative presentation shows the present-day disabled Fox struggling with the consequences of Parkinson's disease, and uses that as a jumping-off point for his telling the story of how we went from struggling actor to mega Hollywood star. Then it journeys through his diagnosis with Parkinson's, which he initially hid from the public, as well as his struggle with alcoholism. Eventually, it shows the evolution of his role as he emerges as inspiration to millions who struggle with Parkinson's and many other disorders. His extraordinary fundraising efforts are a celebration of the human spirit. His dignity and decency in the face of an incurable disease are truly inspiring. The creative format of Guggenheim's film is fascinating, because he uses a mix of clips from Fox's TV and movies along with a series of recreations framed by modern-day interviews to tell Fox's story. It is told with great humor and grace. For anyone of a certain age, Michael J. Fox was a cultural icon. Back to the Future is one of the iconic cultural markers of the 1980s. And still really is in and of itself, appropriately enough, a journey back in time. In a time where we seem to lack heroes, Michael J. Fox is one, and this film provides a great tribute to him. What a wonderfully creative way to document and show your life so far. I enjoyed every minute of this. The use of old clips and new interviews clips to tell Michael's story was absolutely perfect. How he started his career to where he found out he had Parkinson's to then revealing it to the world years later. It worked so well. Pacing was on point, so you don't get bored watching it, even if you aren't a Michael J. Fox fan. It was funny and moving, no pun intended, and really showed Michael as a person as well as getting a strong message across. No matter what's put in front of you or what issues you have, don't let it consume you and stop you from enjoying life. A must-watch documentary film. Growing up, my dad always loved the Back to the Future series, and still does. I watched it a few years ago for the first time, and I can see why it's still such an amazing film. Michael J. Fox is an extraordinary actor, but his life with Parkinson's disease shows that he's so courageous and does not let anything change the way he lives his life. He is a wonderful actor and human being. The documentary was great. I'll be rewatching his films again this weekend because he seriously is a gem, and all that he's been through shows through his work and talent. Thank you to Michael J. Fox for sharing his story. What is your opinion? Don't forget to leave it in the comment section. Goodbye and see you again.